Culture Uncut. This is Culture Uncut. This is Culture Uncut. I am your host, Jason Spears, and Colt fans, we've got a lot to talk about.
Sometimes a fresh start for a coach or for players is a good thing. I know the standard of how we'll carry ourselves as coaches. You know, we ask these guys to be consistent as players. I'll stand up there in front of them and say the same thing I'm saying to you. I want you guys to be this. I don't want a lot of that. And they got to expect the same thing from us. So my standard is going to be that I'm up there and I'm going to be a truth teller. I'm going to tell them the truth. It's my job to say, yes, you're doing it right, or no, you're doing it wrong. And you know that will happen, and it will happen to all of them. I don't care number of years in the league. I don't care. You know, it's just something that, you know, I've always believed in. And good players, great players, want to be coached. They want to know the truth. All right, that's always been the case. And if they don't, then there's probably a little bit of an issue there. But the best ones I've ever been around, coach me hard. Tell me what you want. And I've always found that to be true.
That was coordinator Lou Anarumo in his opening press conference as Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator, talking about the standard that he's going to hold all players to throughout the season. And I got to tell you, I liked a lot of what he said. Now, the caveat to all of this is that it's just talking. We got to see it. But as far as like what he plans to do and all of his points that he hit on in that presser were all things that excite me about this hire. This is Culture Uncut. I'm your host, Jason Spears, and we kind of have a big show planned today. We're going to go over, obviously, the Lou Anarumo presser, which I just shared a slight bit of how I felt. Then we're going to get into a six-pack of you guys' questions that you asked me, and I'm going to try my best to answer them. I'm still not heavy into the draft yet, but I'm starting to get there, watching a lot of players. And there's some questions about the draft, and I will absolutely do my best to answer those. And then finally, I am going to talk about the AFC and NFC championship games and give my predictions on what I think is going to happen. So, should be a fun show, guys. Really, really excited to talk Colts ball and, you know, maybe get outside of that a little bit and talk playoffs. So, jumping into Lou, I thought he did an outstanding job. He seems like a no-nonsense guy. He's got a plan. He's got a system. And I'm excited to see the types of changes that will be made, because obviously there are going to be changes made on this defense. I think you're going to see maybe 3 to 4 new starters, depending on what Chris Ballard does. But I'm really excited about a lot of the things that he said. One of them being that he is going to, and of course I spoke about this before the presser, but one of the things I love about this guy is he doesn't just play static defense and just run the same defense out there and maybe mix in one or two things depending on the opponent. He caters his defense to the opponent. So the days of watching guys go for 15 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, or 115 yards and 3 touchdowns, like those days are over. This guy is going to do what I've asked Gus to do so many times, and that he is going to make you beat him doing something other than getting the ball to the best player, which has been something that's worked against the Colts for years, because we never switched anything up. It was a static defense. There were no changes. There were no disguises. There was no, okay, we're going to take away this one player and make somebody else beat us. That never happened. It was, we're going to allow this guy to get his and try to take away everybody else. And in every case, it cost us games. You look at Malik Neighbors. You look at the Houston games where their wide receiver absolutely just dominated us. There's so many examples of this, and to hear Lou talk about the way he's going to approach everything is a breath of fresh air to me. Does it mean it's going to work? No. Does it? I mean, we all know what the situation is and the circumstances are. A lot of this is going to be dependent upon Ballard being uber aggressive from the jump, not waiting on the thing to play out, jumping in immediately. Because when you wait for the prices to go down, you miss all the best players. And I'm telling you, he's got to be on it from the beginning and go get the guys that Lou needs for this defense to work, and he needs to do it expeditiously, as the rapper T.I. would say. So, but as far as Lou goes, man, I think it's going to be as he said, refreshing for the players. I think it's going to rejuvenate a lot of these guys to be in a different, especially a guy like Kenny Moore, going back to something similar to when Flus was here, blitzing off the corner, setting the edge, getting in the backfield, making plays. Like, I think Kenny Moore is going to have an all-pro type season next year, barring injury, knock on wood. And I think that, just having a guy that's going to try different things. Flexibility is something I've always believed you need as a coordinator, and just listening to him talk, he's a straight shooter, but he's flexible. He's going to do whatever it takes to try to get the most out of his players. And, he did the best he could down the stretch in Cincinnati. In, the last couple of years wasn't good enough, and he admitted that. I think he'll learn from that. You always learn you learn the most in life in general from your failures. And so I think he's going to learn from that. And, whatever the case may be, maybe he had a lot of young players in Cincy. Maybe his defense got a little too hard for them, so they couldn't play as fast, and he had to simplify it. Maybe you'll see him do that in Indy. I don't know. We have kind of a veteran defense, but very, very young back end. So maybe he simplifies the defense so they can play faster. But I do know this. Down the stretch, that Cincinnati defense played a lot better the last 5 games than they did the first 12. So it clearly adjusted. He didn't specifically say what that adjustment was, but that just shows you the guy's flexible and considers all variables when trying to be a problem solver. And that's what coordinators are. That's what he wants in his team. He wants guys out there that are problem solvers. And I understand what he means by that when, you see something on the field, take care of it right then and there. And that hasn't been the case here the last 3 years. So, look, I know it's just a press conference, but I liked a lot of what he said. Now he's got to apply all that to this roster. And again, I think you're going to see a lot of moving parts with this roster because of the difference in defense, the difference in style. So, it's going to be a little while until we get a full picture of the personnel that he's going to be working with. Obviously, free agency still has to happen, and then the draft. But after that, I think you'll see what this team's going to look like and what Lou is looking for or was looking for to build this defense into a, much better defense than we have seen over the past 3 years under Gus Bradley. So those are my thoughts on his presser. I really like the fact he seems to be a no-nonsense guy. No coach speak or no going into, a bunch of word salad. Pretty straight shooter. Didn't use a lot of words, just, straight to the point. And I appreciate that because that's the kind of coach I like. I like a guy that doesn't beat around the bush, and I think that's the type of guy this team needs. They need a guy that's going to, whether it's DeForest Buckner or it's, Jalen Jones, he's going to treat them the same in terms of if you make a mistake, you're going to be called on it. And I respect that. I appreciate that. And I think that's been missing here, to be very honest with you, because that's how egos and all that other stuff develops when you aren't being called on your mistakes. People develop egos and think they're better than they are. I don't see that happening here. I think everybody's going to get the same clean slate, and we shall see what happens. So with that, I am going to jump into the 6-pack of questions you guys asked me. And so, I'll do my very best to answer them. I'm sure they're not going to be the perfect answers because I don't have as much intel or knowledge of players in this draft yet that I will have, but I will do my best to answer them. So, first question. Where do you think the Colts will make the most statistical improvement under Coach Lou Anarumo? And that's from my guy Trey. Always appreciate him. He's very supportive, always had my back. So, Trey, appreciate the question. It's a great question. And just going over the stats, like last year, points per game, we were 24th. I think we'll be better this year. Third down percentage, we were 30th. I think we'll be better this year. Red zone defense, we were awful there too, 23rd. I think we'll be better there. I don't think you'll see as many 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 10 plus conversions that we saw this year. That were just, those things just can't happen. The goal of the first two downs is to either force a turnover or get them to 3rd and long. And we did it so many times and still couldn't get off the field because, people were completing insane 3rd downs because we're playing so far off in coverage and we're dropping, or we're not putting any pressure on the quarterback. And it's just, I don't see that happening this year. I think, you'll see the points per game go down. The 3rd down defense will definitely go down. 30th is damn near last. Red zone 23rd's bad too. I think that'll go down. So I think you'll see improvement in those three things, but I also think you'll see improvement in fundamentals and accountability. I think this team will have an identity on defense. I think you will see this team develop an identity on defense under this coach. I like, for Gus, for 3 years, we had no idea what the identity of this team was, other than they were bad. I think you're going to see a much different team that plays fast, is held accountable, and definitely has a standard where we didn't have that before. So I think things like tackling will improve, like just fundamental technique things will be improved under this coach. I think I don't want to speak ill of Gus. I think he's a very nice man. And I do think at one point he was a very good coach, but there were things outside of personnel with this guy that I just didn't see. Fundamentals were lacking, discipline was lacking, all that stuff I think will be improved under Lou. So I hope that answered your question. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. If Lou is bad or worse than any of these stats, we're getting the clean sweep. It'll be Ballard, it'll be everybody. Steichen, Ballard, the whole 9 yards, probably Anthony, everybody will be gone. So hope that answered your question, brother. Any word on Brian Mason or if he's being retained? That is from Jarrett. Look, I have not been happy with the special teams, and I thought a change was possible, but it's not looking likely unless something drastic happens. Unless somebody comes along and offers him a head coaching job like Liam Cohen or something like that, which is absolutely not going to happen, or offers him like an insane pay raise or something like that, which again isn't going to happen. So he'll be back. So that kind of sucks for me because I thought they were terrible, especially in that Giants game. They were in the Denver game, they were bad. In the Giants game, they were bad. So there's a lot of bad with our special teams that needs to get fixed, and I don't know if it gets fixed under this guy. Something's got to change. So he's got to, do some self-scouting, dig in, and figure out what went wrong because they just simply were not good enough this year. So thanks for the question, Jarrett. 3, after the DC hire, who do you want to not return, trade? And that's from 2 people. I got this question twice. I got it from Daniel, and I got it from Afig18, I think is who it was from. So it's a tough question. I think I want to see Dio come back because I think he'll flourish in this system. So I think Dio, Fries, I want to come back because I don't want another hole on the offensive line. We're already going to have center and right tackle. So I would probably try to trade Braden Smith, but that's not going to be easy. because of the deal. So you're probably going to end up releasing him. Let's see. Who else would I want back? I mean, I like Ashton Doolin, Grant Stewart, like guys that aren't going to cost a lot for depth. I think are important. Doolin is been solid when he's gotten wide receiver snaps, and he's good on special teams. And then Stewart is a very good special teams player as well. If they don't cost much, I mean, those guys, and then probably maybe a guy like Penter to back up Bordellini, you've got to have somebody to back him up. But on defense, I really think it's going to Dio and maybe Julian, because Julian played this whole season hurt. I think we need more depth in our defensive backfield, and I think keeping Julian would be a good move, even if he's not going to play as much. I think that's almost better for him. Less time to get injured, and more time to make plays when you get out there because you're more fresh. I do think we draft a safety or sign a safety to go. So I don't think Julian would start, but I do think he would play a lot. So I wouldn't be against that if it doesn't cost too much money. As far as guys that I would probably release, Braden, if you can't trade him. Man, I don't know. Who else is on the? I mean, Taekwon, I guess maybe. I'm not re-signing EJ. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Raekwon Davis. There's a lot. A lot of this will go into like who fits and who doesn't fit. I'll be interested to see what happens with Juju Brents because he can't stay on the field. Also, Jalen Jones, I'm not sure how great of a fit he is as far as speed-wise, because one thing that Anarumo loves is speed, and we don't have a lot of speed in our defensive backfield. So I'll be interested to see what happens with those guys. I don't think they'll be released or anything. I think they'll end up being like depth or whatever. But cuts, probably Raekwon, that's $7 million. Braden, that's a ton of money. Who knows? Maybe I don't know what the savings would be on the kicker, but I don't know if they keep. Maybe they'll probably keep him. Taekwon maybe saves you a few million. I think it all depends. But you're going to see a lot of movement. I would say that. If there's not a lot of movement, I'll be very disappointed because we've seen what this roster does. It's not good enough. So we need to improve it. And how do you do that? You release guys, you trade guys. I mean, the only guy I could see maybe they trade would be Zaire, but I just don't see it. I think you're going to need that guy at linebacker to, I don't know, help ease the transition for Jalen, because EJ is going to be gone. So I don't think they trade Zaire. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that it would be worth anything. I mean, I don't see it. I really don't. So we shall see, but I think that's a great question and a very difficult one to answer. I'm trying to think if I left any free agents out. For me, it's Penter to have the backup center, and then also Dio and Fries. Those are the three. And then the two special teams guys, I don't think they're going to cost much, Doolin and Stewart. So that's where I would say those are the guys I would probably keep. I'm not looking at a list of I might be missing somebody, but I think those are probably the guys that I would keep. So let's see. Hope that answered your question, guys. 2 of you asked it, so apparently it was a hot button question. 4, thoughts on Nick. Oh man, I'm going to tear his name up because I have my glasses on and I can't see it very well. Nick Amanawari. I think he will have top 20 buzz after the combine. That's from Free AR5. Hashtag Free AR5. I knew about him. I didn't watch much of him because I was focused on other guys. But Destin Adams, I talked to him a lot, and he talked about him, and it's like, I think he might be but this is before we fired Gus, but he's like, I think he might be a guy that we should look at over, at safety, and so I've started watching him, and yeah, he's a specimen. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. Yeah, I would love to add a guy like that. I don't know if I would take him at 14 because I think he's a little raw, but yeah, I mean, if he's there in the second and we take Warren in the first, yeah, he's in my top 5 safeties that I would definitely take a look at. So I like him a lot. I do think he's going to do well at the combine, and I do think he would fit well in this defense. So yes, I do like him, and I could see him definitely being a guy that they like because of the size, weight, speed traits. Those are the things that that Chris likes, and I think that Lou will like as well. So I think he can play both positions, and I think he can play both well. So yeah, I just think he's a little raw, but I do think he's going to be very good. So yes, I like him. Thanks for the question. Free AR5. Let's see. 5. Top 3 players you hope the Colts draft at 14. Okay, so I have, and this is from Zach. I have 4 guys that I really like a lot in this draft. Obviously, one being Warren. It fits a need. He's a special player. I think he would be a difference maker in the middle of the field for this team. So obviously, everyone knows that one. Everybody loves him. He's flying up boards, and a lot of people really, really like him. And now there's buzz he might not even be there when we're picking. So Malachi Starks, obviously, the other guy, would fit perfectly in this defense. Another guy that might not be there when we're picking, but another guy that I think is a perfect fit for this team and what we need. And then the other 2 guys, I'm going to give you 4. You asked for 3, but I'm going to give you 4. Walker, the edge guy from Georgia, I think would be a good add. I think he's kind of a tweener, but I really think you could use him on the edge. I think Lou would find a way to move him around and get a lot out of him. So I would look at him because you can never have too much pass rush or just talented guys, and he's uber talented. So he would be somebody I would look at. And then last is kind of a shocker because he's coming off an ACL injury, but there might not be a better fit in this entire draft for what Lou Anarumo wants than Revel, I don't know how to say his name, out of East Carolina. Tall, rangy, fast, physical. The only issue with him is he's coming off an ACL. That is the only issue. If we could trade back maybe a few and get him, I would be all over that. He's a perfect fit for this defense. Would slide right in and start. That's how good he is. He would fit perfectly. He's going to be a very, very good NFL player. Pro Bowl caliber talent. I mean, easily. So, I think a lot of people were kind of sleeping on him because of the injury, but he's one of my top 3 corners in this draft. I like him a lot more than most people do. I think he would be perfect in Indianapolis. So those are my 3 guys, or 4 actually. You guys, in the comments, let me know who you hope is there at 14. Who are your top 3 or 4 guys you would take, and why? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. That's a great question from Zach. Appreciate it, buddy. I would love to hear the fans' feedback on that because I'm interested. The draft's always a lot of fun, and I love to hear other perspectives on it. So, if you got this far and you're still listening, please leave your comments under and let me know what 3 or 4 guys you want at 14 or who you would trade back for. Last but not least, from my friend John, who's not on social media but sent this to me in text. What are your expectations of Anthony Richardson in the offseason and then next season? So in the offseason, I want him to get as healthy as possible. I want him to lose weight so he's in great shape for next season, the best shape he's ever been in. I want him to work on his footwork. He's going to work with the guy that worked with Josh Allen on his mechanics. I think that's a huge thing because he's got to get better, and they're going to focus on intermediate and short passes, which is his, kryptonite, right now. So off season, I just want him to work as hard as he's ever worked in his life to be prepared for this next season because it's the biggest season of his life. And I want him to work every day as hard as he possibly can, whether that be on, like I said, work, strength and conditioning, whether that's on, mechanics and that type of stuff, if it's in the weight room, whatever, like just everything. I want him to work on everything, study film, grind film, understand, what the guys on your side are supposed to be doing on each play, what the defense is trying to do to you, what they're trying to take away. I mean, get in the film room and study and study and study. So when you take the field, you understand or have a better understanding of what you're looking at. And I think if he does all of those things, that will lead to the next thing. Number one, you got to stay healthy. And that's going to be difficult because he hasn't done it yet in his career. But if he does all of these things in the off season, he works with the strength and conditioning and works and lifts and gets stronger, gets a stronger base, gets a stronger, core and top, shoulders and all that stuff. I think that lends itself to being in better shape physically, maybe work on some flexibility, pliability, so you don't have soft tissue stuff. But I think all of that stuff I talked about and doing in the off season lends itself to making that jump that we need to see him make, right? We need to see him make a big jump from, a barely under 50% passer to like maybe 60%. That's a big jump. And, he's got to really grind and work and work and work as hard as he's ever worked and understand, like, you're not going to be given this job anymore. Like, they're going to bring somebody in. I don't know who Mariota, it could be a lot of people. But they're not just going to give you the job. You're going to have to actually win it this year. So be prepared for that mentally and use that as motivation to understand, like, I got to work harder than anyone else to get better. That's the only way this is going to happen. Take all your failures from the first 2 years, learn from them, build on them, and come into 2025 ready to rock. If you do that and you can stay healthy, I think you can make the leap, man. Shane's got to be in lockstep with them. JBC has to be in lockstep with them, and they've got to make it work. They have to make it work. There's no other solution. They've got to find a way to get it done in 2025 or they're all going to be gone. So that's what I would say needs to be done. My expectations for him next year is just to make a big jump and play a hell of a lot better, throw the ball a hell of a lot better, be smarter with the ball, take care of the ball better, instead of trucking guys, slide more, understand that the bigger picture is you staying on the field, understand that this franchise is, you're the guy that they're looking at right now, and you need to be on the field. The less you're on the field, the less likely it is you're going to be the guy. So you got to understand all this big picture stuff. So that's a lot. It's a lot for a young kid. He's only going to be 23. He's got to understand it. He's got to learn it quick, and he's got to get it done. If not, we'll be looking for a quarterback in the 2026 draft. That's as simple as it can be. So those are the 6-pack of questions, guys. I really appreciate it. Some great questions in there. Really made me think. I had to look up some statistics and all kinds of research, for a little bit. So I appreciate that. It's always good to get the old mind working early in the morning. So appreciate that. So now we turn to the AFC and NFC championship games. So the first game will be Sunday. I think it's on Fox. And it will be the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is like a heavyweight fight. This is going to be like a heavyweight fight. It's the third time these teams have played, okay? The Commanders won in Washington by 3, and the Eagles won in Philly by 8. Okay, so this is going to be, I believe this is going to be a close game, a one-possession game, and it's going to come down to who I think plays better at quarterback. I really do. I think that's what's going to happen here. I like everything the Commanders have done. They're on like a this run they're on is crazy. Like, from the Bears Hail Mary to like, the clank field goal to going in, like, it's crazy, and you got to give Quinn and that staff a lot of credit for what they've done with this young quarterback. It's been impressive to watch. Philly's got a stout D line. They can get to the quarterback with 4, but the problem or the difference with this quarterback will be he can move as opposed to Matt Stafford. So that's going to be an issue for them. Daniels on the move is going to be an issue for them. That, to me, is going to be the key to the game. If they can keep him in the well, so to speak, and get to him without allowing him to get outside the pocket and make plays, they got a really good chance to win. But if they don't, this is going to be this could come down to the wire. And if you're asking me if I think it's going to be like a field goal, well, look, the way the season's going, I wouldn't bet against the Commanders simply because every break that could go against them has always gone for them. So you could say, well, their luck might run out. I tend to just ride the luck. So I think this is going to be a great weekend for football, for the NFL. I think it's going to be a great game in Philly. I'll be shocked if one team blows the other team out. I think it's going to be a one-possession game. But at the end of the day, the Eagles have more talent, far more talent. Their defense has just elite playmakers on it. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. They're stout on both sides of the ball. Their offense and defensive lines are as good as it gets in the league. They got a running back that's on a run right now that I haven't seen in a very long time. They're playing great football. They've won 14 out of 15 games. So they've been playing consistently well for that long. And so the one loss was to the Commanders by 3 points. So they've really, outside of that one game, 14 other wins, and they've been damn consistent doing it. And they've got a special O-line, a special D-line, and a special running back. They got a special team, man. And so I'm going to pick the Eagles to win that game. But I do think it's going to be a one-possession game. I think the Washington is going to keep it close. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because I don't think Washington has the horses on the O-line or D-line to line up with them. But I didn't think they did against Detroit either. So we'll see what happens. Kingsbury's got to dial up some schemes, some plays that maybe aren't his usual staple plays to maybe get them off balance. But it's just such a tough environment for Daniels to go into, that stadium, that city, that crew on defense. I can't pick them. I'm rooting for them because I really like this young kid Daniels, but I think Philly's just going to be too much for him. So that's my pick. I like the Eagles by one score. Or one possession, whether that be 8 points or 3 points. I just think they have too much. So that's prediction number one. The second game, the AFC game, and kind of the heavyweight fight, if you will, is I think it's 6:30 on. Is it on NBC or CBS? I would guess it's on CBS. So I'm going to say CBS. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. This is what the NFL's wanted. The whole off season, the whole season. This is the matchup they wanted. They got it. It's Steve Spagnuolo against Joe Brady. I don't know, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's a different Kansas City team. They've won a lot of close games throughout the year, some by just dumb luck, some they've gotten calls. But at the end of the day, they're the number one seed. They're playing at home. I mean, with everything equal, I actually think Buffalo is the better team here. But they're playing in Kansas City, and Mahomes is playing quarterback. Kelsey's there. Spagnuolo's, really, really good at finding ways to win games when you don't think he should. He's probably he's easily a top 3 court DC in the league, maybe number 1. I mean, it's arguable. So I think they're both going to have big games. I think Shakir will have a big game. I think the Buffalo running game, quiet as kept, has been really, really solid. So I think they're gonna definitely mix in a lot of run. But at the end of this, it's coming down to the two guys, and I think whoever turns the ball over or whatever makes the more mistakes is probably going to be on the losing end. Or if a bad call goes a certain way, I think we all know what way that'll go. I'm really pulling for the Bills. Their fan base deserves it. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost. They stunk for about 20 years, and they never left. They always kept going and supported their team. They're really, as fan bases go, they're as good as it gets as far as fan bases. So I'm rooting for them. But in the end, man, I can't bet against Mahomes in Arrowhead in that type of environment. I just can't do it. I do think it's going to be a really close game again, as they should be, because these are evenly matched teams. And I think it comes down to the end, and I think they win it on a field goal or something, or a late touchdown, something like that. I just think something's going to happen in this game at the end. You guys know how it goes. Something's going to happen where there's either a no call on a Buffalo player on offense where he's interfered with, or a call on a bad interference. Something's going to happen, and Kansas City's going to win. It always does. I think the only team to go into Arrowhead and win in the playoffs is Cincinnati. So it's certainly possible, but I until I see it like with this, I don't know. I can't pick against them. I just can't pick against them. And they've got, they got Chris Jones and other guys on that D line, and it's going to be a fun game. I'll just say that. My hope for both games, and I sincerely mean this, is that the players decide the game. That's all I want. I don't care. Like, I have rooting interest, but at the end of the day, I don't care who wins. I'm a Colts fan. I just want the players to decide the game, not the refs or a call or, any of that nonsense. I just want it to be an evenly called game, a fair game, and let the best team win. And let the players decide it. I know that sounds like, I don't know what that sounds like actually, but that's what I want. And I'm excited, man. It's the last 2 games before the Super Bowl, and I would love to see a Buffalo Washington rematch from like 92 that was 91 when the Redskins were like unbeatable, and unfortunately the Bills had to play them and got blown out. I think that was in Minnesota. I think it was 37-24. But that's who I want to win, but I think it's going to be Philly and Kansas City, and that'll be a rematch of the game a couple years ago. So either way, I think we're getting a rematch. So in the Super Bowl, but yeah, guys, I just think that's the way it goes, and you're going to see Kansas City and Philly win close games, so they'll be entertaining. I just hope it's decided by the players. So with that, I am going to wrap up Culture Uncut. This has been fun to do. Guys, again, please leave your comments for who you would like the Colts to take in the comments, like your top 3 or top 4 guys you like in this draft. I would love to see it. Always appreciate the interaction with the fans. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Jason. Actually, hold on. What am I doing? I'm giving another thing. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at @fortheculture with an O _J. That's how you can find me. You can follow me on Twitter. I have a lot of information on there. I'm very interactive on there. And so with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Friday, enjoys football Sunday, and has a great weekend. And hopefully we'll get some staff announcements for Lou, like new linebacker coach, new secondary coach, D-line coach, and all that stuff, because I'm interested to see who he brings. I think he's going to bring Betcher, who's been a DC before, to be the linebacker coach. But outside of that, I don't know. So I'm excited to see that. But I'll be back next week after the games, and if there's any news on the Colts, to record another pod, man. So thank you for listening. Appreciate your support. Again, this has been Culture Uncut with your host, Jason Spears. Everybody, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.